You know this man. He's an action icon, a martial arts legend, a figure basically carved out of 80s and 90s blockbuster cinema. His name is Steven Seagal, and his legacy is built on broken bones, quiet justice, and a style of Aikido that became its own language on screen. But what about the legacy he passed down? What happens when a shadow that big, that specific, is cast over the next generation? Well, in the brutal, spectacular world of professional wrestling, one woman is fighting to get out from under that shadow and build something of her own. She's got his name, but she's walking her own path. So, is a famous name a head start in the most scrutinized athletic theater on earth? Or is it just a giant target on your back? This is the story of Arissa LeBrock's battle against the world. And for a championship, it all starts with a choice. A choice to leave the life you know and step into an arena where your bloodline can be both a blessing and a curse. For Arissa LeBrock, the daughter of not one, but two Hollywood icons. That choice meant swapping the fashion runway for the roar of the crowd and the unforgiving canvas of a wrestling ring. This isn't just another story about a celebrity's kid trying something new. It's a story about legacy, identity, and the raw, painful, and glorious process of becoming who you're meant to be. The shadow of a legacy. To really get Arissa's journey, you have to understand the two very different titans of her heritage. On one side, you've got Steven Seagal. The guy was more than an actor. He was a phenomenon. In an era of muscle-bound heroes, Seagal was different. He was a legitimate 7th Dan black belt in Aikido, and he brought this lethal, almost dance-like precision to his fight scenes. Movies like Above the Law, Hard to Kill, and Under Siege weren't just movies. They were demonstrations. He wasn't playing a martial artist. He was one that gave him an aura of authenticity that was just unmatched. The public saw a guy who lived his gimmick, a real-life warrior on the big screen, and that reputation, for better or worse, casts an immense shadow. It sets a benchmark for fighting skill that's almost impossible to live up to. On the other side, there's Kelly LeBrock, a star in her own right. She defined a totally different kind of 80s power. As the literal dream woman in Weird Science and the star of The Woman in Red, LeBrock was an icon of beauty, glamour, and charisma. She was a world-famous model who made the jump to acting, captivating audiences with this potent mix of strength and charm. Now, imagine being born at the intersection of those two legacies. The pressure is coming from both directions. From your father, the world expects a warrior. They expect you to have this innate, almost mystical understanding of combat. From your mother, they expect star quality, that natural charisma to command a camera and a crowd. It's a wild combination of expectations. The world thinks it already has you figured out. For Arissa, growing up meant trying to find her way in a world that had already decided who she was supposed to be. Was she the fighter, the model, or some impossible mix of the two? The public loves a legacy, but it also loves to judge it, to hold the kid accountable for what the parent built. This was the weight Arissa was carrying long before she ever thought about stepping into a wrestling ring. A different path despite having Hollywood royalty in her blood. Arissa's upbringing was deliberately kept far away from the Hollywood chaos. After her parents' high-profile divorce, she was raised mostly by her mom, Kelly, on a sprawling ranch in Santa Barbara County. This was a conscious choice to give her a shot at a normal life, away from the paparazzi and the crazy pace of Los Angeles. Life on the ranch was about being grounded, about hard work and character, not celebrity. This environment let Arissa build her own identity, separate from the larger-than-life personas of her parents. Her first career choice wasn't acting or martial arts, it was modeling. And she was good at it, carving out a successful career with AD campaigns and even landing the cover of Plus Model magazine. This was her space, a world where she was judged on her own look and her own professionalism. It was a huge step in proving she could succeed without leaning on her family name. And yet, that warrior spirit maybe? It was inherited. Maybe it was just inherited. Was always there, simmering. It didn't come out in the Aikido dojos of her father, but in an equally demanding discipline. Brazilian training at Paragon Jiu-Jitsu and Kickboxing Academy, Arissa found an outlet for her athleticism that felt completely her own. BJJ, with its focus on grappling and ground-based fighting, is a world away from the stand-up style of Aikido. It's a grueling, humbling martial art, often called physical chess, and it demands incredible dedication and mental toughness. This wasn't a tribute to her father's legacy. It was the start of her own. She wasn't an actress or an Aikido master. She was a model and a dedicated BJJ practitioner. She had built a life on her own terms. But these two different paths, that performance of modeling and the legitimate combat of jiu-jitsu, accidentally creating the perfect toolkit for a future that nobody, maybe not even Arissa herself, saw coming. The call of the mat? The idea of professional wrestling calls to a very specific kind of person. It's a business that chews up and spits out even the most talented people. You need the physicality of a stunt performer, the charisma of an actor, and the resilience of a fighter. For someone with Arissa LeBrock's unique background, that call must have felt like a logical, if terrifying, Next step. Here was a world where her modeling experience, knowing how to command attention, how to project emotion was an asset, and her deep training in BJJ could give her a credible, legitimate foundation for what she did in the ring. It was the perfect place for the two halves of her life to become one. In 2019, that call became a reality. Arissa was invited to a WWE tryout, the most hyper-sure audition in the entire industry. This wasn't some casual look. This was an invitation to be put under the microscope by the biggest wrestling company on the planet. For any aspiring wrestler, this is the Super Bowl. It's your shot to prove you belong. The WWE Performance Center is a factory of dreams, but it's also a meat grinder. Athletes from all walks of life, former NFL players, Olympians, indie wrestling stars, and yes, celebrity kids are put through hell to test their physical and mental limits. Arissa LeBrock walked into that environment with the weight of her name on her back and the quiet confidence of her BJJ training in her pocket. As soon as the news broke, the wrestling world started buzzing. Steven Seagal's daughter trying to make it in pro wrestling. The story was just too good to ignore. This was her moment, her first big step into the squared circle, a chance to prove she was more than a famous name. But as we all know, the first step on any great journey is often where you hit the first roadblock. The first test, a dream deferred. That WWE tryout in December 2019 was Arissa's formal entry into the machine. It was a grueling, multi-day affair where every move you make is judged. For Arissa, the pressure had to be off the charts. She didn't just have to learn the basics of running the ropes and taking bumps. She had to do it while everyone was thinking, that's Steven Seagal's daughter. Every success was expected, and every failure would be magnified. She threw herself into it, and things were looking good. Wrestling news sites were all over the story, and fans were curious. An athlete with her look, her lineage, and legitimate martial arts skills is basically a promoter's dream. A contract with WWE's NXT brand, the system that built stars like Charlotte Flair and Braun Breaker, seemed like it was right there for the taking. And then, it happened. In the unforgiving world of pro wrestling, your body is your greatest tool and your biggest liability. Arissa got injured. While the specifics were kept private, the result was clear. All that momentum came to a dead stop. The dream was put on hold. For so many people, that would have been the end of the story. The wrestling business is full of what-ifs, of promising careers cut short by injury before they even really started. To get that close, to be on the verge of signing with the biggest company in the world, only to have it snatched away by your own body, is a tough pill to swallow. The path that seemed so clear was now completely uncertain. This was Arissa's first real test. She could have gone back to modeling, or just focused on jiu-jitsu, and no one would have blamed her. But the setback didn't break her. Instead, it forced her to dig deep. In a later statement, Arissa gave a glimpse into her struggle, saying, "When I got the call from Dustin, I realized that I had become comfortable in the darkest, worst place in my life." The injury wasn't just physical, it was mental. It forced her to ask herself how badly she really wanted this. And in that dark place, she found the resolve, not just to recover, but to come back stronger and smarter. The dream wasn't over. Forging a new weapon. The House of Rhodes. After the injury and the time away, Arissa needed more than just a coach. She needed a mentor who understood the unique pressure she was under. She found that person in wrestling royalty, Dustin Rhodes. The importance of her training at Dustin Rhodes Wrestling Academy can't be overstated. Dustin isn't just a respected veteran. He's the son of the legendary American Dream Dusty Rhodes. Dustin knows better than almost anyone what it's like to grow up in the shadow of an icon. He spent years finding his own identity, eventually creating the unforgettable character of Goldust in WWE, a persona that couldn't have been more different from his father's. Now a coach and top-tier performer in all elite wrestling, Dustin has a special understanding of what second- and third-generation talents go through. When Dustin Rhodes reached out to Arissa, it was a lifeline. It was a chance to learn the craft away from the corporate pressure cooker, under someone who just got it. She accepted, moved, and dedicated herself to learning wrestling from the ground up. This wasn't about a fast track to TV. This was about learning the why of wrestling, the psychology, the storytelling, the grit. Rhodes has been vocal about Arissa's dedication. In an interview, he praised her commitment, saying, "She's come off of modeling in California, and things like that. We're working with a personal trainer, and she's trying to get everything, all her ducks in a row. She's doing a great job, but this is only the beginning for her." He saw her potential, but more importantly, he saw her work ethic. His academy was the perfect place for her to rebuild. It's a no-nonsense training ground where respect for the business is everything. Here, Arissa wasn't Steven Seagal's daughter. She was just another student learning to bump, sell, and connect with the crowd. Dustin's confidence in her was obvious, predicting, pretty soon the whole world's going to be talking about Arissa LeBrock. Under his guidance, she sharpened her skills, blended her jiu-jitsu into a pro wrestling style, and found the confidence that her injury had shaken. The debut, Arissa LeBrock, is born. After the setback, the recovery, and all that focused training, it was finally time. In early 2023, under the proud watch of her mentor, Arissa LeBrock made her professional wrestling debut. A debut is everything. It's the moment. All those hours of painful training pay off in front of a live crowd. She stepped into the ring with a new name that perfectly captured her style. The name itself is brilliant. LeBrock acknowledges her heritage, giving fans an instant connection. But wristlock is the key. It's a direct nod to her martial arts foundation. It promises a technical submission-based style. It immediately tells the audience to expect something more grounded, more legitimate, referencing the joint locks common to both her father's Aikido and her own BJJ. It was a statement. Her debut was a huge milestone, and her coach couldn't have been prouder. Rhodes celebrated her first match, making it clear this was just the first step of a long journey. For Arissa, this moment was the reward for not giving up. She had overcome a major injury and the crushing pressure that came with it. She put in the work, listened to her mentor, and earned her spot. In her own words, she felt it was time to give every ounce of passion within me to professional wrestling. This was her public transformation. She was no longer just a model who trained BJJ, or the daughter of action stars who had a WWE tryout. She was a professional wrestler, an active performer in one of the world's toughest professions. The world had seen her father's shadow and her mother's glamour. Now, for the first time, they were seeing Arissa LeBrock, the professional wrestler, standing on her own, in her own arena, ready to write her own story, one wristlock at a time. The landscape of legacies, a league of her own. Arissa LeBrock didn't step into an empty room. Pro wrestling is filled with the sons and daughters of legends, each navigating their own set of expectations. To really get Arissa's position, you have to see how her journey stacks up against her peers. Take Charlotte Flair, daughter of the 16-time world champion. Ric Flair, her father, is arguably the greatest of all time. She wasn't just expected to be good, she was expected to be a champion. She entered the WWE system and, through sheer athleticism, became one of the most decorated women in history. Her challenge was living up to a pure wrestling legacy. Then you've got Ava Raine in NXT, the daughter of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. That might be the most intimidating legacy of all. Her dad isn't just a wrestling god, he's one of the biggest movie stars on the planet. Ava faces pressure from all sides, the charisma, the wrestling skill, the global stardom. But Arissa's situation, it's a whole different ballgame. Her father wasn't a wrestler. He was an action star famous for his perceived fighting ability. This puts Arissa in a uniquely tricky spot. She doesn't have to copy a famous wrestling move or a catchphrase. Instead, she's chasing a much more abstract, and maybe tougher, expectation. The expectation of legitimacy. Because her father was a real-life martial artist, the audience subconsciously expects her to be a real fighter in a scripted world. Her BJJ background is both a huge advantage and a source of intense scrutiny. It gives her a credible, unique style, but it also means her every submission will be judged more harshly. She can't just do a move, she has to make it look flawless, because anything less would be seen as failing to live up to the Seagal standard. Unlike Charlotte, she isn't compared to a wrestler's in-ring work, but to an action star's realism. Unlike Ava, she isn't compared to a global entertainer's charisma, but to a martial artist's technique. This hybrid legacy Hollywood glamour from her mom, martial arts authenticity from her dad means she's fighting a battle on two fronts. She has to prove she has the star power for sports entertainment and the technical grit to be a believable fighter. It's a tightrope walk very few have ever attempted, putting her in a league of her own. Today, being a successful wrestler means more than what happens in the ring. A modern athlete has to be a brand builder, a content creator, and a social media master. The line between a performer's character and their real personality has blurred, and connecting directly with fans is key to a long career. Arissa LeBrock seems to get this, and she's shown a smart understanding of how to shape her own narrative. Using social media, she speaks directly to her followers, sharing insights into her unique upbringing, her modeling career, and the tough reality of her wrestling training. Instead of letting blogs and commentators define her, she's defining herself. She gets to talk about the pressure of her name on her own terms, explain her BJJ background, and share her goals without a filter. This is how you build a loyal fan base that's invested not just in the character of Arissa LeBrock, but in the journey of Arissa, the person. This direct engagement is so important because it makes her more relatable. Fans can see her passion when she talks about wrestling and understand the dedication it took to come back from her injury. That kind of support is powerful. When she posted a video montage showing her story from her parents' fame to her WWE tryout, the injury, and her comeback with Dustin Rhodes, it was a powerful piece of storytelling that really connected with her audience. It was her way of saying she owns her entire past, the good and the bad, and she's using it to fuel her future. By telling her own story, Arissa is getting ahead of the narrative. She isn't waiting for a wrestling company to make a video package explaining who she is. She's telling the world herself, one post, one clip at a time. It's a smart approach that shows she understands the game, both inside and outside the squared circle. the world awaits. What's next? Arissa LeBrock has made it through the hardest part of any wrestler's career. The beginning, she's built her identity, trained under a legend, and made her debut. The foundation is there. The big question now is, what's next? The path for a talent like Arissa is wide open. Her mentor, Dustin Rhodes, is a major beloved figure in all elite wrestling, a company known for its focus on in-ring action. An alliance with him on AEW television feels like a natural and compelling story. Imagine Arissa LeBrock debuting as the protege of the Natural, with his respected backing as she takes on the AEW women's division. That path offers a ton of creative freedom. On the other hand, the door to WWE probably isn't locked forever. Her 2019 tryout, even though it ended with an injury, put her firmly on their radar. WWE loves developing second-generation talent in its NXT system. A return to the WWE fold, this time as a fully trained wrestler, would put her on the biggest stage in sports entertainment with the massive WWE machine behind her. And of course, there's the vibrant world of the independent circuit, where wrestlers build their reputations and prove their worth in front of the most passionate fans. This would let Arissa travel, face all kinds of opponents, and build her name organically. Her destiny is still unwritten. Will she join her mentor in AEW, take another shot at WWE, or carve out her own path on the indies? Every choice has its own challenges and rewards. The only thing that's certain is that with her unique mix of martial arts legitimacy, inherited star power, and proven resilience, Arissa LeBrock is a talent to watch. The world is waiting to see which stage she conquers next. What do you think is the best move for Arissa LeBrock? Should she join Dustin Rhodes in AEW, or try to finish what she started in WWE? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoy these deep dives into the journeys of wrestling's most interesting people, make sure to like and subscribe for more. The story of Arissa LeBrock is happening right now, in front of our eyes. It started with a choice to step into the demanding world of wrestling. She immediately faced a major trial with an injury that tested her spirit. But out of that struggle, she found a mentor in Dustin Rhodes, someone who understood her path because he'd walked a similar one. She rebuilt herself, learned the craft, and came back with a statement as Arissa. Her journey is a fascinating answer to that classic question. Is a famous name a blessing or a curse? For Arissa, it's clearly been both. The name opened doors and got people interested, but it also created this intense, unique pressure to be legit every time she steps through the ropes. She hasn't run from that challenge. She's embraced it, making her martial arts background the core of who she is. She isn't a copy of her father or her mother. She's something new. A model, a jiu-jitsu artist, and a professional wrestler, carving out a niche that is all her own. We don't know if championship gold is in her future, but one thing is for sure. Arissa LeBrock isn't fighting in a shadow anymore. She's fighting to build a legacy of her own. And in the world of professional wrestling, that's the most important victory there is.